good evening, good morning, depending on wherever you are. My name is Prasad Jaladi. I am the founder and chief facilitator of Suraksha. We are doing a series of interviews with experts all around the world to talk about the environmental conditions and how do we deal with that situation as a civilization. Suraksha is an all-volunteer organization based in Austin, Texas. We are offering training programs, consulting, and other things, including ESG reporting software, etc. Our intention is to bring awareness to the professionals and deal with the environmental conditions as they are happening in the local areas. So in that effort, we are bringing different experts from different parts of the world. Today, we have invited Dr. Babu Rao K, who is a great environmentalist from India. He graduated from IIT Madras, and now it is called as Chennai. And he is a retired IACT scientist, and he is an environmentalist, as I mentioned. And he is also who is involved in human rights, protecting human rights rather. So he dealt with a lot of issues, especially pollution issues in India. And of course, he is fully aware of the things that are happening around the world. So Dr. Babu Rao Garu, welcome. We appreciate you taking time on this day. So I'm going to ask you a few questions given the backdrop we have on 5th, we are about to celebrate World Environment Day. So this year's theme being beat plastic pollution. So I would like to have a conversation on that. Could you please tell us where we are at on this plastic pollution worldwide? Later, we will turn our conversation towards India and also the local states.
Thank you for inviting me for this meeting and exchange of views, particularly as you said about ending plastic pollution globally. That is the issue now. On that issue, I have real concerns because ending plastic pollution is being shown as if it is mostly the responsibility of the individuals and the people. That is how the corporates have been escaping responsibility from what they profit from. Actually, the issue is ending plastic pollution. The primary responsibility is with the producer and then the government, the regulator. Without their major share, individuals, only the consumer behavioral changes will not really make any big difference. We have seen on many things, all these years, right from 1970 onwards, when the pollution became a core issue for the society. But then nothing has happened. In most of the areas, things remain as it is, or they are even worse. For example, plastic pollution is being talked about for long, but plastic pollution has also created the global pollution, especially from other allied chemicals like per and polychloroalkyl substances, PFAS and other substances, PFOS, etc. They are all the offshoot of the plastics industry. We are adding more and more pollution, and the entire humanity is contaminated with those pollutants. All life is contaminated, rather. When in such a situation, simply going on telling reduce, reuse, 3 hours, 4 hours, and 5 hours, meaningless. They're really meaningless. If the government really wants, we have to change the way we produce things and use things. So why are these plastics necessary? Are they really unavoidable? The society has to sit up and take a decision. And society taking up decision means the governments have to take up decision on behalf of the people. And the governments are more interested.
So I have a question here, sir. You brought up the government's involvement here. So how should governments act on this major pollution?
The governments are elected by the people, and the core responsibility to protect the people and their interests. Government's responsibility is not to protect the business or enhance the or improve or enhance the business. That may be a part of it, but when improving business or aiding business, not at the cost of the people and pollution. They have to now say which is more important, producing more and more polymers and more plastics and increasing the GDP, or protecting the people and environment and life. That's the core question. They're not doing that. They think that both can go on. I don't think we have reached such a stage where both cannot go on. That's why there is now international hue and cry and saying that we have to end this pollution globally. At this stage itself, they should come out and do something. But we hear that they all, because of the climate problem and the imminent threat for the fossil fuels continuity, now the fossil fuel industry is shifting more towards plastic production, more PVC, more polyethylene, more polypropylene. Such production is increasing. Now I recently read that one huge plastic polymer production unit is coming up in Texas. Some $10 billion what the unit or something is coming up. Why? Why do we need so much plastic? Plastic is not a natural substance. It is a man-made substance, and it doesn't degrade. And it's also, now we know so well that what are its implications for the life itself on the planet. So the government should wake up now and at least start acting on it. If they don't act on it, then they're not representing the people. They're not really valuing democracy. That only we can take.
I agree with you, sir. I have the similar concern based on your comments here. I'm from Texas, and I have the equal concern on this thing. Actually, they were talking about bringing a refinery initially, and then they switched the idea to polymer manufacturing facility there. Now there are so many organizations, NGOs fighting for not for protecting their communities over there. There are already problems over there, and that includes cancer rallies in that region. So this is very much evident scientifically, but again, still I don't know why worldwide governments are pushing for such kind of nasty things on people. So you brought up very wonderful point here. So please continue, sir.
Yeah, this is the basic problem is everywhere in India also. The governments are valuing more of the right to business than the fundamental right to life. Right to life is more fundamental.
Mm-hmm.
And right to business is subject to not harming life. Right to business is not an unconditional right. It is a conditional right.
You're absolutely
And the right to business does not give them a right to harm people, cause ill health, and kill people. They don't have. Because that will be treated as a criminal, and manslaughter cases can be, there are so many instances of manslaughter cases filed against those companies whenever they cause death and to the workers and people around in accidents, etc. So this problem being there, the government should, if they really represent a democratic government, if they really represent the people who have elected them, then they should prioritize people and not prioritize people. And you want to give them good life. What is good life? That people should debate. You should take the problem to the people and say, what is it that you want? You want to continue this? You don't have any problem with this kind of a pollution, where people who are fighting with knowledge of the pollution also, it is so difficult to establish because the governments are not taking it, because you require huge establishment to prove that what is harming them. And they don't have facilities. People don't have facilities. Where the governments are failing, people cannot really substitute. Citizen science has its limitations. And going to the courts and fighting legal battles with huge amounts of finance involved is not possible for the people. In some cases where there are people coming out with support, financial support, etc., in some countries it may be possible. Particularly in a country like India, if people have to fight a legal battle, it is not possible for them. It's simply
I
not
think it's
possible
the
because
same thing even in West also. I think it's the same thing even in West also. There is a lot of gap in that.
But then, for example, if we know about this, in Massachusetts, that civic action, the court case and civic action, the lawyer fought it. He borrowed even the money also from the source, and finally, because they have a guarantee that they can recover that money from the company, because the huge fines are levied on the companies for violations. So that's how it happened. In some cases, for example, in the case of the DuPont case also, which Wilbur Tennant and Robert Billard, what Robert Tennant could pay to the lawyer fought for him almost pro bono. That's why something could happen. Otherwise, nothing would have come out from there. It is like that here in India, this is a real problem. Particularly, there is most of the problem is on scientific issues of pollution. The system is not really trying to understand and properly adjudicate. The problem, our judiciary is not trained in scientific issues. Whereas in other countries, judiciary is also trained to understand the issues involved. Simply because you are qualified as a lawyer and you are selected as a judge, it doesn't mean you will understand everything automatically. That requires learning. In the career, where do they get time for learning? So the government should provide the training for them, give them up and train them. In absence of the training, most of the times there is no sympathy or empathy for the suffering of the people. They are looking at it as if people are causing hindrance to the development. They're anti-development. That kind of attitude is expressed in several cases by the judiciary also here in India. This is an unfortunate situation. This is an unfortunate situation. That is the issue here.
So can we discuss about a couple of examples in India, because we talked about examples in US, one or two briefly, if possible? Like the former cases, there's something brewing up recently also.
No, at least my own experience with these cases, because I was not a party, but we were submitting our letters to the NGT and several issues, because we know that there is no real, there's supposed to be an expert member there. But after reading some of the orders, final orders or final judgments, we found that the science has become a casualty in that. There are two things that I can give you examples about. There are a number of things, but one of them is the committee appointed has given a wrong report, which doesn't stand to science. For example, they said the 3 workers who died of exposure to trichloroacetyl chloride. Trichloroacetyl chloride is a liquid with a boiling point above 70 degrees centigrade. It doesn't come out as a vapor at ambient temperature. It doesn't come out. They say somebody opened a valve and all these gases have come. Even if the gases as a vapor, it doesn't kill people instantaneously so quickly. It will only cause problem of inhalation, the difficulties, etc. It doesn't kill people immediately, so quickly. There are no cases of reported of people exposure. There is a case reported in a medical journal and in a case in Italy where a person who was carrying larger, then for some reason he spilled it on himself because of something that happened there. So it fell on his body completely. And what he did is, because he is trained in that and he understands things, he immediately rushed to a shower. He fully showered himself. He came out into the open so that he can breathe well. He was sick for 1 or 2 days, but he recovered. He didn't die. He didn't die.
Mhm.
So this is what, and in another case, they said there's a methanol vapors have come out and exploded. At ambient temperature, how can methanol solvent put inside a reactor come out in such quantity as to cause an explosion? To cause an explosion for methanol, it requires a minimum concentration of 6% in air. 6% in air of that size, whatever the area they were using, how much methanol should evaporate and come out? How? Where? Without any heat source, without any way, how did methanol come out? And all these things went into the final order. Nobody scrutinized whether this is actually possible or not. This is how things happen. This is the most unfortunate thing. You write to anybody, nobody cares. Nobody cares. That is the
We also
situation
had
here.
some incidents where certain things happened in US. Actually, EPA ignored a few environmental things complained by the youngsters also. Recently, they won a couple of cases just like that, and this is before the elections. And so courts awarded some what we call the verdicts in favor of the youngsters who are fighting against EPA. So there are certain incidents like that, which is encouraging on one hand, and the given current situation seem to be really tough on the environment. Also, we have to wait and see what goes on along with that. So let's steer our focus on other things, say like microplastics. So we know that microplastics entered into human bodies already, even the brain. So how do we deal with this kind of disastrous things that are happening to the humans? Of course, animals can speak, and there are a lot of things that are happening through microplastics to the animals as well. So, how do we collectively take care of this issue?
The microplastics problem is an offshoot of the plastics pollution. It is not by itself as a separate problem.
Mm-hmm.
Because of our discharge to the environment and their exposure and whatever breakdown happens, physical breakdown that happens because of erosion, etc., these microplastics are generated. So microplastics are not generated by themselves, except in few cases in cosmetics and microbeads, etc., where they are used. But the problem of microplastics treating is part of there is no separate solution for microplastic. The whole problem with our present day issues is we look at every problem in an isolated way. Plastics is one pollution, industrial pollution is other pollution, air pollution is another entity, water pollution is other entity. These are all integrated into our production system, production and consumption system. So without touching that basic industrial production and technology, we can't solve these problems. We talk so much about green chemistry. Are we really doing any green technologies? What do you mean by green technology? Recently, I found one interesting thing. Green ammonia. They say green ammonia. What is green ammonia? Green ammonia simply because of the route you produce, that ammonia doesn't become benign. Ammonia is always a toxic substance. Ammonia can harm, whether you call it green or brown or anything. Ammonia has same chemical properties and physical properties. Those properties are not changing. What is special about green ammonia? Somebody was saying that if it's green ammonia, the permission should be given without any EIA, etc., etc. How can you exempt ammonia? Ammonia is a hazardous substance. If ammonia leaks, even if you label it as green, it can kill people. This is a very, they're changing the definitions to suit the business, to suit the industries. They're not bothered about this is an unfortunate situation. Nobody is looking at actually what can be possible. So similarly, hydrogen also. Green hydrogen or blue hydrogen or anything, all hydrogen can be hazardous because hydrogen, when it leaks, you won't know. Hydrogen, when it catches fire, you cannot see the fire. You cannot see the fire. These are all the problems, and you have to store it at very high pressure. And most of the hydrogen projects that are started, they are not really taking up. This is how we are put off from this, and because of lack of debate in the nation, because of lack of open debate and open participation of the people, some of the solutions, false solutions, are imposed on the society. False solutions are imposed on the society, and no care is taken at the start of the industry itself to prevent what can happen. Most of the industries, when they started without any, simply for the sake of commerce, we have come across the unintended consequences later. You take PVC. The industry was all secretive. Vinyl chloride has caused a lot of cancers. Many workers in the industries, they died of cancer, different types of cancer, angiosarcoma, etc. But still, the companies knew about it, but they kept it a secret. Similarly, you can take Teflon also. Same thing. Everything was kept secret. And now, in the 2002, etc., everything came out from their own documents, their own internal documents, that they knew about it some, but they kept it secretive. Even today in 2025, they are not able to stop the production of PFAS. They still continue. There are still court cases going on, arguments going on, saying that these products are essential for our life, quality of life. They cannot be discontinued. This is the argument. Only thing, why people really need them? We have lived very good lives without even looking at plastics. When I was a schoolboy, we didn't even know what is a plastic. We have not seen any plastic object also in those days, in the 60s. But now today, they're so ubiquitous everywhere. And really, do we need them? These have been imposed on the society. All these are imposed on the society mostly. And because of that onslaught of advertisement and this changing lifestyles, people are simply accepting without any real thinking because it's convenient, particularly in urban lifestyles. That's the problem. So we have to basically look at, we can end the pollution. The 5 R's or whatever they are talking about, reduce, refuse, reduce, reuse, recycle. All these things, they're meaningless actually. Why should you use it in the first place? Refuse is the only thing. First, refuse to use. Use it only when it cannot be avoided. Wow. And also many things that they are making, are they really unavoidable? Are they really unavoidable? All these things, can we continue to use them forever into the future? Because even the oil, forget about climate change itself, oil is a finite resource. Oil is a finite resource. So how long can you go on producing plastic? How much plastic you would produce? Now they're saying that by 2060 or something, we will make about 1.2 billion tons of plastic. That becomes simply, the society cannot bear that burden of dealing with them. What do you do with that plastic? How do you dispose it of? How do you eliminate it from the environment? Because this is simply not possible. How much energy is required to incinerate or do anything about it? And how much of chemicals are going into plastic pollution? They talk about reuse, recycle they talk about. Can we recycle all the plastic that is made into products? No, because some of them contain large quantities of plasticizers and different kind of additives for the specific purpose for which that is made. And what do you do with those chemicals? How do you recycle those chemicals? So most of the plastics are not fit for recycle at all. Only single-use plastics, some of them are fit for recycle, not others. So this is the whole thing, because society is unable to think deeply and they don't have that knowledge. And the newspapers and others are also, the media also is not informing them properly, because most of the media also plays to the gallery, because those people who give them advertisements and to the politics of power, they play to the lobby of the politics of power. They do not really empower. They do not empower the people to fight for their own.
So this brings me to a pressing question. What is the role of local leaders and citizens on this thing? That includes professional scientists. What do we do from here, right? Now, there is a lot of misinformation, disinformation, as you alluded in case of urea and also hydrogen. So what do? We got just 10 minutes here, less than 10 minutes.
There's a whole problem, sir. The issue is our education is not really making us into thinkers. They are not making us into rational human beings. Our education, the sole purpose of our education today is to make us eligible to earn a job. That's the first problem that we see is this education is moving us away from being part of a society and starting to make us to think as an individual and think about his own professional growth and own benefits and living well with earning a big salary. That is the first problem. The education is not making us into a person belonging to the society. This not only now, I have read about it in 1960s. Ernest F. Schumacher, who was advisor to our planning commission in India, he wrote about it. He said a person who goes to a university and studies for 5 years, particularly in countries like India and China, he gives an example of China. He says, to maintain a student for 5 years in the university, it requires the effort of 5 farmers. 5 farmers to support him to get education in the university. And he asks, what are they doing after completing their education? What are they doing in return for the farmer who made it possible for them to get an university education? That was more relevant because we were a predominantly agricultural society then. Now you may not agree to that, but in 60s it was so. It was so in China and it was so in India. So what did he say? He said, you go to Bombay, you get a job, you have your own mutual admiration society, you start only thinking about yourself and your growth salaries. So we think that if we get into a job, what salaries I must get more and more salary, I must get promotions every 3 years, 4 years. But what does the farmer or other people who are working in other areas are able to get? So simply by acquiring a university degree, which is public funded university, you are getting your privileges and you are achieved something. Really, have we achieved something? What is it we have done really to the society? I don't know. And most of the time, these people who are educated in the universities, they are not free from bias. They're not free from existing social hatreds and biases. So what has education done to us? And many times I tell our many of our colleagues also, okay, we have earned our degrees in science. We have made our career for more than 3 decades. We continue to get benefited from the government pension. So what have we done for the science? What have we done for the people? So there are no answers for these questions.
Yeah, I agree with you. So we have to do two things. We have to change the way how we get educated and also our behavior of education. So I have one interesting question for you, sir, if you don't take it personally. You're almost an educator. You involved in academic institution also, as I know, and you are an activist on environmental side. You're also involved in human rights, etc. And you are a scientist. Um, if you were given environmental minister of a country, say India, what do you do? Please tell me how do you change the system in just 1.5 minutes? I know it's a challenge, but I want to pick your brain on that thing so that some people would think in those lines at least.
The problem is the environmental ministry is not an independent ministry. The first thing we should think of is environment ministry is not there to promote industry. The primary purpose of environment ministry is to regulate the industry. We have lost that. We have lost that focus. That must be restored first. What I find most of the time in this environment ministry is people approach to the company for environmental permit without actually having a technology, without a proven technology. And they are giving permission. Nobody is asking questions. And they think that simply they have to be giving permission within 90 days. Within 90 days after completing the public hearing. Is it really possible? Is it really that way? A project has to be appraised. Even in the developed world, Western countries, which have made it in the Industrial Revolution, I heard that minimum of 6 months is taken for evaluation. That is what I gathered. 6 months is taken for thorough evaluation because these people are not evaluating the technologies properly before giving the permission. We have so many accidents. We have so many accidents in the industry. And the so-called committees that are put as expert committees, they have no exposure to industry. They have no exposure to industry. They're simply rubber stamps. They're simply rubber stamps. Government has a policy. We can say you can as well put a group of clerks there, simply saying like what you call. So there is a time period. If application comes, you have to clear that application in a time because there is no any evaluation. There is no scientific appraisal. Why do you need any scientific people there? Simply by the date of submission, date of clearance. So they will go by the routine. That should be changed. That should be changed. You take precautions in the beginning, prevention actions in the beginning, so that afterwards we will not repent or lament.
I agree with you.
That is because you don't have much opportunity to change because it is overall part of a government. At least a person who is acting as a minister can take very strict view of permission systems and proper permitting systems. That much I think they will be, even that they may not permit it. That minister may be transferred to other ministry. That also happens. So, I don't think.
So my humble request is we require people like yourself who know entire story of how we need to do from here onwards at least. I hope your message gets across the border and I appreciate your insights that were given to us in the shortest time and form possible. I know it is really hard to talk about many things, but I would like to invite you again and again for discussing on a few things where we can bring more awareness to the public and also professionals, and also may enlighten some of the politicians if they want to listen to us and ask us to discuss with them on a few things so that they won't do many mistakes in the near future at least. So that would bring us to the end of our conversation. Thank you so much, Dr. Babu Rao K. Garu, for your valuable time. I hope to see you soon on another conversation. Thank you again for all.
Okay. Thank you so much, Prasad Garu. Thank you. Nice of you.
You're welcome.